You know, we throw around the word alive all the time, but have you ever really stopped to think about what it actually means? On the surface, it seems pretty simple, but when you dig in, the answer is, well, it's pretty fascinating. Let's get into it and uncover the real secret that separates the living from the non-living.
Okay, so let's start with a super simple question, almost like a riddle. What's the real difference between a dog sprinting across a field and a rock just sitting there? The answer might seem obvious, right? But stick with me, because this is the perfect jumping-off point for everything we're going to talk about.
Yeah, for pretty much all of us, the big giveaway for life is, well, movement. We see a dog running, a cow chewing its cud, a person shouting, and our brain instantly goes, yep, that's alive. We automatically connect all that visible action with the idea of life itself.
Okay, but what happens when that movement stops? I mean, a sleeping dog isn't running around. A plant can just sit there for days and you wouldn't see it grow an inch. We'd still say they're alive, of course. So clearly, just looking for movement on the outside can't be the whole story. Our definition has to go deeper.
And this is where things get really cool. Biologists have a much more precise answer. They say the true, fundamental sign of life is movement we can't even see, the constant, invisible dance of molecules. This is happening inside every single living thing, all the time. It doesn't matter if you're running a marathon or totally passed out.
And a perfect and kind of weird example of this is the virus. On their own, viruses show zero molecular movement. None. They're basically just these inert little crystals. But the second they infect a living cell, bam, they hijack its machinery and spring to life. This all are they or aren't they thing is exactly why scientists are still debating if viruses are truly alive.
Okay, so why all this fuss about invisible movement? Well, it's because being alive is basically a full-time, high-stakes maintenance job. It's a non-stop battle against falling apart.
Think about it. Living things are incredibly organized, right? We have tissues, which are made of cells, which have even tinier parts inside them. But here's the thing. The universe, the environment around us, is always working to break down that order. It's just a fundamental force of nature. Things tend towards chaos. And the stakes are as high as they get. Seriously. If that internal order breaks down, that's it. The organism just isn't alive anymore. So life is this constant fight to maintain structure and function against all those forces of decay.
And that brings us right back to our main idea. To fight this constant breakdown, living creatures have to repair and maintain themselves 24/7. And how do they pull that off? You guessed it, by moving molecules around all the time. That's the whole point of all that invisible motion.
Now, this repair work isn't just random. It's all managed by a set of core functions that all living things share. You can think of them as the essential job descriptions for being alive.
Think of it like running a factory. First, you need fuel. That's nutrition. Then you have to turn that fuel into usable power. That's respiration. Next, you need a delivery system to get that power to all the workstations. We call that transportation. And finally, you got to get rid of all the garbage produced along the way. That's excretion. Let's take a quick look at each one.
First up, nutrition. I mean, you can't do any work without energy, right? Nutrition is just the process of getting that energy from somewhere outside yourself. For us, we call that source food. It's the raw fuel for the entire maintenance operation.
Next is respiration. And this isn't just breathing in and out. Biologically, respiration is the chemical process of using oxygen to break down that food and convert it into a usable form of energy for our cells. It's like taking the crude oil from nutrition and refining it into high-octane gasoline.
Okay, so you've got the fuel and the oxygen. Now you need a delivery service. That's transportation. In complex critters like us, we have a whole circulatory system that carries these essential materials to every single cell in the body that needs them.
And finally, any busy factory creates trash. Excretion is the super important job of getting rid of all the useless and often harmful byproducts from all those chemical reactions. It's the body's waste management system, keeping everything clean and orderly so it can keep running.
All right, let's zoom back in on that first big job, nutrition. How do living things actually get their fuel? Well, it turns out that life on Earth has evolved two totally different but equally brilliant strategies for this.
We can basically call them the makers and the takers. The makers, or autotrophs, think plants, literally make their own food from simple stuff like carbon dioxide and water using sunlight. Then you've got the takers, or heterotrophs. That's us. We can't do that. We have to get our energy by consuming other organisms.
And since we're all takers here, let's make this personal. We're going to follow our food on its incredible journey to see exactly how our bodies extract the energy we need to stay alive.
So here's our roadmap for the trip, the alimentary canal. And yeah, it's pretty much one long, super specialized tube that starts at the mouth and ends at, well, you know where. And every single stop along this tube has a very specific job to do.
The whole journey kicks off in the mouth. Think of it as both a mechanical grinder and a chemical lab. Your teeth crush the food into little bits, while saliva makes it all wet and easy to swallow. But the real magic starts with an enzyme, a tiny molecular machine called amylase. It gets to work right away, breaking down complex starches into simple sugars. Digestion literally starts with the very first bite.
From there, food heads down to the stomach, which is basically this muscular bag that churns everything up with digestive juices. The two big players here are a really strong acid and an enzyme called pepsin, which starts chopping up proteins. So, how does the stomach keep from digesting itself? Well, it has this thick, protective layer of mucus. Pretty clever.
Okay, now we enter the main event, the small intestine. This is where digestion gets completed, but it needs help from a couple of friends. The liver sends in something called bile to break up big blobs of fat into smaller ones. At the same time, the pancreas sends in a whole cocktail of specialized enzymes, like trypsin for proteins and lipase for fats, to finish off the job.
And this right here, this is the end goal of that entire journey. All that complex food we ate, carbohydrates, proteins, fats, has been broken down into these simple, usable building blocks, glucose, amino acids, and fatty acids. Now our bodies can finally absorb them and put them to work on that constant maintenance job of being alive.
And you know the most incredible part? This whole complex journey, this constant battle to maintain order, is happening inside you every single moment, without you even having to think about it. It just makes you wonder what other invisible life processes are humming away right now just to keep you, you.